Right, and unemployment's going to get worse. In California, the first thing they're going to do is cut 55,000 teachers, and there'll be lots of other cuts. What they should be doing, and I know it's under law in most states, but they have to cut some of these pensions for public employees. I mean, they're outrageous. In California, in Santa Barbara, my nephew just retired as the assistant chief of police, and after 30 years, and he'll receive $120,000 a year plus COLA. That's absurd.
Wow. Yes, absolutely. We're going to be right back after this 4-minute break. Stay tuned to the Power Hour.
I'll buy you a diamond ring, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. I'll get you anything, my friend, if it makes you feel alright.
Ooh, so says Obama.
I don't care too much for money, 'cause money can't buy me love.
Well, that's true, but it can buy anything and everything else, it seems like, for Obama. And just give it away to all your friends. We're talking to our guest today, Bob Chapman, who is the executive editor of the International Forecaster newsletter. If you would like to get a sample copy of it, a complimentary copy, you can call 877-479-8178. That's 877-479-8178, or go to theinternationalforecaster.com. And I think once you get a copy of this, you are going to be hooked. The idea that the U.S. is out of money. Obama did this on a Saturday, very quietly on C-SPAN. Now, you know, the AAA bond rating is gone now for the United States. That's causing some problems. So where do we sit now, Bob Chapman, with we're out of money and our AAA bond rating is gone?
Well, it isn't officially gone. It's been put on negative watch, but it's headed in that direction, and it probably will be downgraded, probably to AAA minus. And the same thing is going to happen to England. What is the fallout? At the beginning of the year, we predicted that the 10-year U.S. note, which yielded at that time 2.35%, would go to 3.50%. It closed on Friday at 3.45%. It only took 5 months. I thought it would take until the end of the year to do that, which means that the yield is probably going to rise even more. That's important for a number of reasons. That's part of the fallout. And that's important because the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is based on that. So it closed last week at 4.92, so I expect the yield probably to be around 5. The yield. I shouldn't say yield. The mortgage should be about 5% on that 30-year fix this week. And that's going to continue to rise, which will be negative to the real estate industry. The S&P Case-Shiller report just come out this morning. For the first quarter, homes dropped 19.1% in 30 or 20 selective cities. I don't know which, but anyway, in the hardcore large cities, and that bears out the previous figures of 18.6 and 18.8%. So houses are still falling in value. The help from the government and from lenders has been minuscule, and it will continue to do so. All the money that's been shoveled out and all the credit has gone to the 19 major banks, the brokerage houses, and the insurance companies. They don't care about the American people. They care about saving them.
That's right.
And so that's part of the fallout there. And then because of the tremendous amount of money that's being shoveled out the door right now between the Fed and the Treasury, it's aggregating about $14.8 trillion. And the fiscal year and the calendar year isn't even up yet. And on top of that, we had hearings in the House, and the Federal Reserve cannot account for where $2 trillion went. And when asked, they said, well, we don't want to expose anybody who received these monies because it might be detrimental to their business. And so what they're saying is we're not going to tell you. and they said it was a state secret. Another reason to get rid of the privately owned Fed. And so we have this fallout, and that's caused in the yields, the ability to get money. I mean, before the year is out, governments have to raise $6 trillion, never mind business. And that's why you're seeing this mad gallop in here while the market's still up for banks and others to sell stocks so that they can put money into their onto their balance sheets. Also, this is affecting the dollar. When the dollar hit 89.50 on the USDX, we said that was the top. It was going down. That was 2 months ago. It's now 80. So the dollar's falling. Yields are rising. Governments and business are scrambling for money. And we have this monetization going on. And that means that when the Federal Reserve creates money and credit, it often does it by creating it out of thin air, and I'll get back to that.
Okay, we need to talk about that. Also, what are we going to do? We just sit back and we're like ducks in a shooting gallery. And the pick and pay mortgages. Remember Jim Shepard from Big Berkey told us...
The Power Hour. This is Joyce Riley. I thank you for joining us today. We had a little technical problem here, so we're going to have to be on this phone line, which I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I know the sound is not as good as it could be, and I do apologize for this. Anyway, let's go back to our guest today, which is Bob Chapman. We're talking about the International Forecaster, theinternationalforecaster.com. He is editor of the International Forecaster. Bob Chapman, are you there?
I am here. I can hear you.
Okay, good. Let's talk about this real out-of-money situation. Does that mean the United States is totally out of money? What was he saying when he said we're out of money?
Well, revenues are less than expenditures. That's a deficit. The deficit this year that the Congressional Budget Office and the administration admit to is $1.82 trillion, up from $368 billion deficit this last year. So it's monumental. The real figure is probably going to be somewhere between $2 and $2.5 trillion. That's just for 1 year. So the president says he's out of money. Well, he is. Now, what he has to do is he has to borrow money from people, Americans and foreigners, in order to replace loans in the form of bonds that they have out already. Then he has to get new money. This week he has to get $100 billion. That's the auctions that are going on this week. And incidentally, America has never had an auction where they had the auction and nobody came. And that happened in England a couple of weeks ago. It could happen in America. Now, what the government has been doing is that they've been selling Treasury paper, bonds, notes, bills, to the Federal Reserve. Mm-hmm. And the Federal Reserve buys them from them and credits their account. And they debit their own account. The problem is the Fed doesn't have any money. And the Fed's deficit has increased by $2 trillion since the beginning of the year, because not only are they buying Treasury paper from the Treasury paper out of the market, but they're also buying toxic waste from the banks. And they're supposed to buy $900 billion minimum this year of that. So between the two, they're committed for $1.2 trillion. Now, the banks that are selling this toxic waste to the Federal Reserve, they're taking that money and they're buying treasuries so that the demands of the Treasury can be met. And so you've got kind of a double whammy of money creation here. You've got the Fed making it out of thin air, the Fed buying virtually worthless bonds from the banks, and the banks, and they're buying them at a higher price, of course, and the banks taking that money and buying treasuries and leaving them on the books, which means their balance sheets are stronger than they were before. And it's like a daisy chain. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to work. And that's what he means when he says we're out of money.
Well, I'm also concerned because those pick and pay mortgages that we talked about 6 months ago are going to come due very soon. This is going to be another major mortgage crisis because there's a lot of homeowners who have been only making their minimum payments on this pick a pay or pick a payment mortgage situation. And they're going to have to start paying in full. That's going to be huge jumps in these monthly payments of the individuals that have the pick-and-pay mortgages with increases of over 50%. I mean, that's not uncommon. So what's going to happen to all of these people now?